Speaking of, today I'd go ahead and do one of KamSandwich video. Yeah, I discovered the KamSandwich when I watched the Magic Mush's video on the Scott the Woz clones. And I actually got curious since his videos were actually one of the few that were recommended. And when you know it, I actually enjoyed his videos quite a bit. So, yeah, let's go ahead and react to his video on the Breakey files. If you don't know what Breakey is, it's TLDR. It is a failed toy line where the whole point of the toy was to competitively break the other's key, and once you do, the said key is completely worthless. It was subject to his compilation of most worthless objects previously, so yeah, let's go ahead and see what his thoughts are, further thoughts are on the product. Okay, let's go ahead and
How's it going, dudes? So you're a big fan of trash. Can't stop thinking about it, can't stop watching it, can't stop eating it. When it comes to flat out garbage, you're the first guy they ask. But you have a problem.
Hey, I'll have you know that it's a stereotype among skunks. A stereotype that's also kind of true, actually. But humans do it too, what I'm saying. I don't know what else to take this.
Problem. When you're out playing games, you are missing out on time that could be spent creating waste. As with how busy the world is nowadays, you simply can't afford to take this time off. Luckily, you won't have to anymore with the hottest invention from the far-off future of 2003, Garbage the Game.
Or you could just be a politician. Either way works.
Breakey, the game about creating waste and setting money on fire. Put the two opposing keys together, twist, and watch on in horror as one of them breaks forever. I mean, in terms of ideas, that's gotta be one of them. Breakey is quite the legend around these parts, being one of the few games to qualify for the worthless distinction and officially being voted as the worst board game of all time. This thing has garnered quite the reputation since I covered it in the Pointless Games video. And I covered quite a few things in its segment. There was the gameplay, there was the tie-ins, there was the Dutch television program, and afterwards, I thought that would be the end of it. We'd hold our silly little tournament, it would probably do well, and then we'd all move on like I've been trying to do with several of our other channel mascots. But if there's one thing that I can count on from this community, it's that you will not let a bit die. And as I moved on from the Breakey segment to crafting the tournament, a few of my more investigative fans over on the Discord began a search for more information on the game, driven by curiosity, intrigue, or maybe a calling from some higher being. Regardless of why, they began to dig. And dig they digged until they came across some of the most arcane knowledge to ever come from a product line this stupid.
I mean, can you really blame them? The very premise of Breakey was literally to waste money. You need to know what the thought process behind that is.
Transcribing their findings into one of the most curious documents to ever grace the hands of man, the Breakey files. And now I get to talk about this game for 18 more pages. Thanks, guys! A massive shout out to
You're
Eddie
welcome.
Kitty, Doesn't Know French, Mitch Watches Berliner, and everyone who helped put this beast together. As contained within these crazed documents, we basically have the full story of Breakey and what happened to it in neat, digestible files. Quite literally in the case of the one labeled The Edible Files. Oh, this one isn't gonna cause my brain melt to flare up at all. So ladies and gentlemen, you better strap yourselves in as we uncover the full story behind one of the worst product lines ever put to market, Breakey. But before we go global with this Breakey breakdown, let's set ourselves up for going global with the sponsor of today's video, Saley. Picture this,
Alright,
you love
you
the
know the
Dutch
rules.
Breakey show so
Let
much
the
that
ads
you
roll.
decide to visit the Netherlands to get in on all the hype. But once you arrive, oh no! Not only are there no Breakeys here, but since you forgot to get a SIM card for this country, your roaming fees kicked in and drained you of every dime you've ever had. How does this keep happening to me? Luckily, Saley is here to prevent this confusion right from the start. Saley is an eSIM service that will allow you to connect to the local network of any country without the hassle of needing to find and install a different SIM card. I have been abroad twice, and I kid you not, the whole time I was petrified of using mobile data without thinking and instantly losing $20 to $30. So you know if I'm ever outside the old US of A again, I'm leaving that stress here with an eSIM my silky smooth brain can't misplace halfway through the trip. All you need to do is download the app, get a plan from one of the 190 countries and 8 regions, activate the eSIM, and you're good to go. Start with Saley before you leave and start your trip off stress-free, and get 15% off your Saley data plan by using code KamSandwich at checkout. Download the Saley app or go to saley.com/KamSandwich and start saving on stress. Thank you again to Saley for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to seeing how much stress Breakey is going to cause me with all of their craptastic ideas. The Breakey files are a collection of findings that are split into 3 major categories: the physical files, the online files, and the marketing files. We'll tackle these in the same order that the document does, partially to not disrespect the clean formatting, and partially because this way we'll get progressively dumber with the things we uncover. So to start us off, let's begin with the physical files. The physical files contain 3 findings that deal with the key's build and functionality, like the first one here that mentions that the Breakeys are made from a recyclable material. I tell you, it's not easy being green. Thanks to the discovery of a Chinese patent from 2001.
Ah, yes. Recycling plastic. The most tragic hoax of the 20th century. And sadly still ongoing. And now we're, well, sadly ingesting it. As if it's pure divine karma.
I mean, we just started. It is shown that Breakeys were made of polypropylene, a recyclable material that would allow the keys to not be sent immediately to a landfill upon breakage, possibly reducing the environmental devastation that the keys would otherwise pose. I say possibly, as all you would need to do in order to make this happen is live in an area with recycling services, pay for those specific services, make sure that the keys make it to the correct processing facility, have them go through processing with no issues, ensure that none of the delivered material was contaminated in any way, and then entrust all those aspects to their target market of a 7 to 14-year-old, and you're good to go. See, if they would have just made them out of glass, we would have no issue here. But if for some reason you can't meet these requirements, you don't have to throw away that broken key.
So, yeah, this was ultimately doomed to fail from the start. A surprise.
Just yet, as there's a whole nother way to repurpose your freshly created trash, building crap out of it. On the official website, there were messages and images encouraging kids to take their broken Breakeys and, using the broken bit as a connector, construct various structures or creations with them using their imagination. This would allow you to get a secondary use for the keys other than keeping them as trophies on that weird battle strap thing, making them ever so slightly less worthless. However, it would be good to remember that these things originally came in packs of 5. So if you wanted to construct anything nearly as cool as the Breakey castle here, that would cost you somewhere around the range of financial ruin. Don't want to throw away the keys but also despise the construction industry? Never fear, as you can prominently display the corpses of your enemies using our state-of-the-art feeties. Fun fact, if a grown man comes into your store and
So they just wanted to make building blocks? Then why didn't they just make building blocks? Just avoid that whole breaky bullshit hit to begin with.
asks if he can buy some feeties, international law says that you are legally allowed to gut punch him. Finally, the last part of the physical files deals with how the Breakey's related to food items, so now it's time to get mega stupid. In that same Chinese patent from before, they list a variety of materials that the keys could have been made out of, most of them expectingly being some form of plastic. However, at the end of one of these segments, there is quite the curious sentence. It is also conceivable to use an edible material, such as sugar, for one or more parts. Have you made a decision yet, sir? Yeah, I'll take the Breakey platter, but can I get that without the purple ones? I don't like purple. Unironically, if they made it to where after you break a key, you can eat that little useless bit that comes off, this game would be like 7.5 times better. But that's not all for their food follies, as in that same patent, they also talk.
So it just accelerated the microplastic epidemic we've been suffering from. This bullshit is just getting better and better.
Talk about food adjacent options for these bad boys, such as including them in, quote, bags of crisps or boxes of cornflakes as part of a nationwide giveaway. What good would getting one Breakey from a box of Frosted Flakes do you? Or by treating them as a coupon where, for example, 10 specimens can be traded for a bottle of soft drink or a tube of toothpaste. Do you have any idea what this means? If this happened, then this would have made the keys a legitimate backed currency. Now, granted, based on your standard soft drink price, these probably wouldn't be worth more than a dime a piece. But that does put them ahead of the Venezuelan Bolivar. Gee, many.
Well, you know what? A joke we have to make, people. Wow, this is worthless. It's even less than worthless, my boy!
Freaking Frosties, we are one file collection in and we're already nearly at max stupid. Where do we even go from here? Why, we leave the limitations of our physical world and enter the new possibilities presented by the digital era. We enter the online files. The online files are the smallest collection of the three. There are no sub-files in here, everything is just condensed into its single paragraph of findings. But while it might not be as big as the other collections, trust me, there is still plenty of stuff here that can rip your mind asunder. You there, I see you're about to throw away that perfectly fine Breakey. Well, yeah, it's broken. What else am I supposed to do with it? Well, why don't you scratch off that silver part on the back there and see? Wow, it's a code! Yes, my boy, now put that code into the official Breakey website and behold, life after death! Yes, on each Breakey came a code that you could redeem to get that key onto your official online account, granting that key the ability to battle other online keys like some sort of digital Valhalla. Does your Breakey believe in heaven? Unfortunately, with the website being obsolete, I cannot show you the rip-roaring action of an online Breakey battle. But I can tell you that they were determined to make this work, even going so far as to just outright bribe the kids to play.
Oh, so it's prototype NFTs. Goody. And the more we learn about this thing, the less I like it. That has got to be an accomplishment.
rise to the top of the very real online Breakey leaderboard, and Upper Deck was willing to mail you prizes for your success. These being very sensible things like more packs of Breakeys, EA games from the time period, and an entire gosh dang Game Boy. There was also a collaboration with the
Oh, so EA was actually... he planned to be behind it? Why am I not surprised?
Flemish TV show Spring, oh, finally something relevant, for one of these online contests. Winners could take home all kinds of fabulous prizes, such as a memory game, codes for something, keychains, mouse mats, fan books, letter paper, and a state-of-the-art reading book, as opposed to the widely popular watching book. All of these prizes were of course adorned with the famous casting characters of the television program Spring, for all the die-hard Spring fans to enjoy.
Yeah, I have no idea what Spring is. But regarding the whole reading book thing, yeah, for some reason everyone just said reading book back in the day. I don't know why either, especially since, as Cam pointed out, it's really freaking redundant to say. But I digress.
Confounded, I missed it by just 2 decades. There were also several wallpapers or screensavers that were created that you could download to make your computer background. So if any of you Spring fans missed out on the initial rollout, I've put them full screen here for you to screenshot free of charge. I cannot express to you enough that this is your last chance. But with 2 of our collections now explored through and through, we only have one final group of findings to cover. A collection of information that is 6 times larger than the previous 2 files combined, the marketing files. Better strap yourselves in now, folks, because once we get this puppy started, there is no way to slow it down.
Oh wow, the marketing files are larger than the freaking backup plans. Who would have thought?
Are locked in. The marketing files contain any and all information that could relate to getting the brand of Breakey out to the masses, as well as the laundry list of problems associated with that mission. If you're wondering how many problems pursuing a target market could possibly cause, well, enough to fill 3 lawsuits, but we'll get back to that. For now, we're going to focus in on what Breakey...
Foreshadowing is a literary device. Oh, but... okay, yeah, but seriously, I am really wanting to hear about the whole lawsuit shit. Because... yeah, holy shit, this whole product just screams someone's gonna sue. Not just for how bad it is.
did to get their items into the hands of children everywhere. We touched on this a little bit in the original video, where they used everything from colorful imagery to tie-ins with popular media to one really weird Dutch television program that was truly one of a kind. And thank goodness for that, as after experiencing that madness, I don't know what I would do if there turned out to be a second television program produced in an entirely different nation.
Well, there goes monetization.
Hi, ich bin nicht der Hauptpreis, sondern David, der Keymaster von Breakoff. Seid ihr bereit? Ja! Ihr auch? Super! Ab 6. Oktober, Montag bis Freitag um 13:40 Uhr ist es Breakoff-Time. Hier bei RTL 2, 3, 2, 1, Breakoff!
Why do we keep Germany around again? Yes, unfortunately for the wider world's mental state, there was
To answer your question, they are probably the only ones who are managing our economy these days. Because Lord knows America isn't.
Another Breakey show, this one featuring German television legend David Beer as the host and going by the title Break Off. This name coming from the fact that the show was not ashamed of the product it was showing off like Can You Beat Me was, although the jury is still out on if they should have been. Amazingly, these two shows followed completely different structures with how they went about these Breakey battles. In Can You Beat Me, the game would follow a single elimination bracket between 4 children, and whichever one survived the day final would not only win a Can You Beat Me t-shirt, but would also advance to the week final on Friday to win an even bigger prize. Unfortunately, we have no idea what this prize was, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it was a 3-day, 2-night vacation in the beautiful faraway streets of scenic South Central Detroit. Meanwhile, in Break Off,
Because you can't have shit in Detroit.
to break both of the other team's keys to secure the win. If they were skilled enough to manage that, they would get the chance to select one of 5 doors that contained prizes. 4 of them being just crap like boxes of Breakeys, but one of them containing the fabulous grand prize. Again, we don't know. Sunny, smiling South Central Detroit! If you picked crap on your selection, you could choose to come back the next day to play again with that door eliminated, running the risk of losing it all if you ended up losing.
Oh no, not my Breakeys.
The German website for the show also adds a little bit of world building to the program by saying that the competition is held inside of the Break-Off Dome. Quote, the Break-Off Dome is located in the Plaza Media Studios in Ismaning near Munich. This is where Premiere produces the Formula One live coverage and the UEFA Champions League broadcast, among others. The studios also produce well-known TV series such as Hausmeister Klaus and the Kocht Comedy Club. The butchering of the language is to wash away the sins of the program. The Dutch remain unforgiven. Unbelievably, the mad lads that put these files together actually managed to follow the corporate ladder all the way to the companies that might be in possession of these shows today and emailed them to see if they could get any more footage. And here's how that went. Fox spit back some corpo speak that roughly translates to screw off. RTL Zwei, who produced the German show, replied back saying that most old programs and shows can't be aired anymore due to licensing issues and that they no longer provide show fragments for personal use. And Talpa, the streaming platform that succeeded the Dutch network, said that they are sorry to disappoint, but that they don't have any digital footage of the program since it was from before they acquired KIJK and it was not transferred over. Even in
Oh yeah, it appears that everyone doesn't want to address the Breakey. I wonder why. Oh, that's what I got enough. And it doesn't look like anything important.
including a sad face to show their sadness at the situation. Alright, Dutch people, this person was nice enough that you are hereby forgiven for the show, but don't do it again. And there's the full story of all we know about these shows. Call to action, lost media, whatever. But we need to focus up because somehow it's time for us to get even dumber. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going on tour. From October to December in 30 cities in these countries, Breakey rolled around Europe holding small tournaments where kids could compete for prizes. This tour was either known as the Break-Off Tour or the Breakey Battle Tour. And the winner of each event was of course crowned that city's one and only Keymaster. These are not to be confused with the Bray King. The Keymasters are regional rulers, similar to a duke. Crazily, there was also some of this hot tour action going on in the States later, as one of our Discord members actually remembers attending one of these events at his local Toys R Us, where his friend ended up winning a GameCube, automatically elevating Joe's friend to the coolest kid in that region for the next 2 months. But why only go on tour with tournaments when we could be going on tour with originally produced music? Upper Deck, in the most eggs in one basket marketing play I've ever seen, nearly managed to sign a deal where they agreed to sponsor a cross-country tour for an unnamed pop group from Orlando in exchange for that group writing an original song about Breakies.
What are we doing here? Come on!
Despite Billboard reporting that the agreement was in the process of being signed, the deal eventually fell through, which I wouldn't trust Billboard's reporter here too much anyway, as he said that a European tour was also involved, and that's just outright wrong. But we do know that this deal did exist, as one of the lawsuits mentions it, so we'll be getting back to that soon. But more importantly, who was this mystery band that almost gave us a hot breaky track? Well, many theories exist, but with it needing to be a band that was 1, from Orlando, Florida, 2, likely going to be making new music in the next few years, and 3, big enough to warrant the cost of a nationwide tour, the best option that hits on all of those points was likely the effing Backstreet Boys. Could you even imagine?
Of course, that's just a theory. Chances are that some boy band would probably have just been given the role instead. But still, that would have been a very interesting footnote.
Unbreakable. Yeah. But why stop at a tie-in with one of the most popular boy bands of all time when there are so many other properties to be harvested? Licensing time. Breakey was very much interested in the, man, our property stinks, can we borrow yours style of licensing, slapping that one guy slash thing all over those bad boys in a desperate attempt to stop you from thinking about the actual game. We've got it all. We've got Major League Baseball, we've got Metabots, we've got Susuke and Wisuke, we've got the hit television program Spring, F it, German One Piece commercial.
Breaky, die Schlüssel in den coolsten Figuren von One Piece.
Monkey die Ruffy, Buggy der Clown,
Breaky!
Break off, yeah!
Come on, man.
The One Piece is real. We have seen it.
Amazingly, other tie-ins were planned for other properties to join in on the fun that never ended up happening. From fictional creations like Marvel and Pokemon to more professional sports like the NHL and the NFL. Man, now I'll never get my Dante Culpepper Breakey beans. And that's it. No more stupid marketing from this nonsense. We're done. And I don't know about you, but I need some kind of reparations for what I was just put through there. Luckily, we have just that, as it's now time to watch this entire operation crash and burn through the lens of the 3 different lawsuits that killed this crap for the good of everyone not employed at Upper Deck. There are...
Oh boy, this is gonna be good. Because let's be real here. They deserve every single lawsuit they got.
3 lawsuits on offer here, the first relating to that alleged Backstreet Boys fiasco from earlier, and the last 2 directly resulting in the death of the whole product line. I have never been this excited for something that has already happened in my life. Let's start off with the first one and dive into the rowdy courtroom drama of Buzz Marketing versus Upper Deck Company, Eastern Court of Pennsylvania. Upper Deck contacted Buzz Marketing in January 2003 during their search for marketing firms to help with marketing the launch of Breakey. Upper Deck's then Vice President of Sales, I kid you not, Rich Henry, who is real, alive, and has been working at the Pokemon Company for the last 20 years, met up with Buzz Marketing CEO Mark Hughes at an exhibition in New York in February 2003. After some discussion, Rich Henry asked Hughes to prepare a proposal for Upper Deck to evaluate. 5 proposals were sent from March to mid-April, the first 4 being rejected by Upper Deck, but the 5th one containing an idea so revolutionary that they simply could not refuse. The 5th and final proposal outlined a domestic marketing campaign in which a popular music group would be paid to endorse the product. And on the 14th of May, Rich, Henry, and Hughes had a phone call in which they discussed that fifth proposal. After this call, an amended version of the fifth proposal was sent to Upper Deck, along with a request for a $122,000 wire transfer. Whatever amount of money you think this thing lost, double it and take it from the next project. 16 days later, on the 30th of May, Upper Deck's marketing manager phoned Hughes to say that she would call him when the 122 bandos was going to be wired. Also on that same day, the marketing director, quote, left a voicemail for Hughes stating that he would be receiving the wire transfer on Monday or Tuesday of the following week. Now, this isn't mentioned anywhere in the doc, but common sense would dictate that after hearing this news, Hughes immediately went, "Aw, yeah." After this, the article fiasco happened with that entire fake European tour, and then on the 2nd of June, Upper Deck sent Hughes another revised edition of the fifth proposal. And then on the next day of the 3rd of June, Hughes sent Upper Deck more revisions of the fifth proposal. Later the same day, Upper Deck responded with yet more revisions to the fifth proposal. 8 days later, on the 11th of June 2003, Rich Henry called Hughes to inform him that Upper Deck would not be launching the Breakey product and therefore Buzz marketing services would not be needed. Imagine, 122 bandos. Gone! Henry also requested an itemized list of Buzz Marketing's costs for reimbursement, which Buzz Marketing submitted, but Upper Deck never paid, so...
Wow, who would have could have seen that coming? A frickin' rug pull. Christ, this really was a prototype of NFTs.
Now, it's lawsuit time. We've got quite the match here on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, as Buzz Marketing is coming in with a 4-pronged attack. We've got breach of written contract, breach of oral contract, breach of implied in fact contract, and unjust enrichment / quantum merit. Let's see how they did. Parts 1, 3, and 4 were all thrown out immediately as there was never a written contract. Buzz's evidence for implied in fact was dismissed as hearsay, and they just immediately gave up on their own 4th point. Not a great start. They did still have their second option though, and you only need to win one. So let's see how breach of oral contract held up. According to Buzz Marketing, an oral contract was formed on the 14th of May during the phone call between Henry and Hughes. However, based on previous precedent, the 5th agreement contained language that signaled the intent of both parties to execute the agreement in writing. Furthermore, the fact that there were modifications to the 5th proposal after the 14th of May suggests that there could not have been a contract on the 14th of May. In other words, they're screwed. It is so over. In the end, summary judgment was granted to Upper Deck, the case was closed, and they started off 1-0 in the civil court. But that was really more of a warm-up round. Heck, the opposition even surrendered on one of their own claims. The next bout is not going to be as easy, as now we have entered the main event and the biggest reason as to why this product line ever died off in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Upper Deck Company versus Breakey International, Southern District Court of New York. As a background, the ferocious Breakey marketing and even the keys themselves completely vanished out of nowhere sometime in the second half of 2004, followed by their various websites in early 2005. This rapturous event of the entire Breakey brand was seemingly kicked off by one minor miscommunication between Upper Deck and Breakey International that eventually led to the lawsuit that killed the entire idea. So let's see for ourselves what exactly happened here. In July 2002, Ken Ross from Breakey contacted Richard McWilliam from Upper Deck to propose a cooperation between the two companies with regards to the new Breakey game. A few samples of these keys were sent over, and much later, on the 15th of November 2002, both companies came together and signed the updated Breakey license agreement. So Upper Deck didn't even create the Breakey line. Somebody else made this garbage on their own, showed it to Upper Deck, and they went, "What a great idea!" and just started throwing money at them. Part of this agreement was that Breakey was going to help Upper Deck create a website for the online portion, which is going to become very important soon. Now, ready yourselves for this one, folks. Upper Deck agreed to pay Breakey $5 million in non-returnable minimum guarantees to cover royalties from the sales. $5 million fully guaranteed. Kirk Cousins type guaranteed money on a bunch of plastic keys. This was to be paid in two parts, one immediately at the execution of the agreement and one at the beginning of the second term year on November 15th, 2003. Upper Deck paid the first $2.5 million, and Breakey provided the source code for the website in December. $2.5 million up front for the right to sell this. What a steal! After
I've heard of worse deals. I mean, granted, it's still a bad deal, but I've definitely heard worse.
sending $2.5 million their way, it was smooth sailing. But by early 2003, Upper Deck began to find many problems with that earlier source code. In a meeting in May of that year, Upper Deck informed Breakey of this and said that the agreement had to be amended. So they gave them this revised agreement, but Breakey demanded that the $5 million total had to be increased. Guys, I don't think you get it. More guaranteed money! Upper Deck disagreed with this shakedown, and on the 13th of November, 2 days before their next payment was due, they decided, yeah, I think we're gonna sue you now. And Breakey went, oh, that sounds like a great idea, we'll do it right back. So with our wacky cast of characters and their motivations established, let's go ahead and jump right into the battle. Upper Deck learned that it is not wise to spread yourself thin like Buzz Media did, so they are only going in with one devastating attack: breach of contract. As it had reached the date where Upper Deck owed the other half of their fully guaranteed money, Upper Deck had to pay Breakey $2.5 million, but refused to do so because it argued that the source code that Breakey provided for the Breakey.nl website was not sufficient to host an online competition with a lot of different users in multiple different languages. Breakey then shot back and argued that it was just there to provide the source code and was never required to make sure it fulfilled those requirements. Your Honor, we're just here to provide the code. We were never contractually obligated to prove that it actually worked. Breakey moved for a summary judgment to dismiss the lawsuit, but was denied. After this, literally nothing happens. The lawsuit just ends here, so I think this was just to determine whether or not the case would be thrown out. It wasn't, so
And it's just as abruptly as Illuminati versus Oz Media. Weird.
So with neither company really winning here, we're just gonna call this one a draw. But now it's time to hit the real deal. The big kahuna. The one and only. The finale of all finales. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Upper Deck Company versus Breakey International 2. Southern District Court of New York. This matchup is the culmination of everything we have seen so far, giving us what both sides are competing for, their evidence and thought processes, and all of the information surrounding Breakey's rise and fall. So let's go ahead and start back at the beginning. The Breakey IP consists of two products, the actual small plastic keys and the online game called Breakey. In the contract signed in 2002, Breakey granted Upper Deck an exclusive 2-year license to use, copy, promote, distribute, market, and sell the Breakey product worldwide, excluding a few countries. Upper Deck agreed to launch the product in the United States, EU, and Japan, collectively called the Material Territories, by May 2003, and all other territories by November 2003. This is the full background. Upper Deck likes their stuff, they want to sell it, Breakey gives them permission, and in return gets royalties for each sale. Upper Deck does all the work for them, they still get paid a little bit, but Upper Deck has to follow some rules. For example, Upper Deck had to spend a minimum of $1 million on marketing and advertising for each of the 2 years in each of the 3 territories. For a total of $6 million, may I remind you, spent advertising small plastic keys that break forever the first time they lose. In addition to that, they have to give Breakey 10% of all net sales with a minimum of $2.5 million, which is the non-returnable minimum guarantee that was mentioned earlier. So basically, if the Breakeys take off and become the next Beanie Babies, Breakey International makes a frankly stupid amount of money. But if the product flops and sells nothing, they still get $2.5 million. They quite literally cannot lose. Now, there was a reason as to why Upper Deck wasn't allowed to sell in the Benelux countries, because Breakey already had another company, Studio 100, selling the keys in that area. I guess everybody's just lining up to license these things. Studio 100 was the exclusive distributor for Breakey in Benelux. It bought 15,000 boxes of the Breakey product and then sold them from December 2003 until May 2004, before terminating the agreement in June of that year. Probably when they realized that this might be just a little bit ridiculous. Now, we need to do a quick rapid fire of information before we move on, or else you're gonna lose a lot of context. Breakey believes that the wholesale revenue of Breakeys are between $29 and $54 per box. Wow, that is a complete ripoff. Screw you, buddy. The Breakeys were produced.
I mean, charging
in
money
China,
was
which explains the Chinese pet
in the
that
first
is in
place is a
physical
bit of a
form.
ripoff,
And
but
lastly,
still.
the Studio 100 boxes were delivered in December 2003 and stopped being sold in early June. Got all that? Alrighty, back to the action. According to the managing director of Breakey, Studio 100 reported that they had sold 70% of the inventory after 3 months. He was also informed by Studio 100 that they believed all 15,000 boxes were sold, but were not certain as the keys were sold in a joint venture. In other words, they sold out. Belgium, you have 15 seconds to explain yourself. Now, the rest of the info mainly deals with this Stewart guy and his sales projections figures, and we'll take a look at those later. For now, let's finish this up with the fact that after the fallout of Upper Deck and Breakey around November of 03, Breakey was in talks with another licensee in June of 04, I guess to run it back? Also, the fact that Breakey is trying to receive an unspent amount of the minimum of $6 million Upper Deck was required to spend suggests that the budget they had used was less than $6 million. Whew, thank goodness. They only spent slightly less than $6 million on marketing. For a second there, I thought we might have just wasted a ton of money. And that's it. We finally have all of the necessary
They still wasted
background
money, but
information
still.
to understand what in the world is going on here. So let's go ahead and jump back into this bad boy to see which of these two jokers is going to come out on top. Upper Deck. Sewer, looking to have Breakey hit with the breach of contract penalty so that it does not have to pay the $2.5 million of guaranteed money. Breakey International. Sui, countering for that $2.5 million of guaranteed money, as well as more cash on top of that in the form of 1. Lost royalties in the second year of the agreement, 2. Lost royalties beyond the term of agreement, and 3. Breakey's claim for $6 million in unspent advertising dollars. We've got quite a lot on the line here, so let's see how it went. On October 13th, after oral arguments that we sadly only have the final results of, the courts awarded the summary judgment in favor of Breakey, deciding that Upper Deck was the one who broke the agreement by not paying them the $2.5 million of more guaranteed money. I imagine the decision went something like, so the money was guaranteed. Yes, fully guaranteed, but they shouldn't get it because they failed to give the website multinational tournament functionality. Was that required within the contract terms? No. No, get out of here. Yeah, so having to pay the money they themselves fully guaranteed, big loss for Upper Deck there. But just how big could this loss get, as they stood to lose way more dosh if even a single one of Breakey's countersuits ended up hitting. We'll tackle these in order of least to most devastating, starting off surprisingly with Breakey's claim for $6 million of unspent advertising. Breakey argued that they were entitled to the remaining amount of the money that was supposed to be spent in that $6 million advertising budget Upper Deck was required to use, which would have granted them a solid total of however much was left. Yeah, a concrete number for this remaining amount was not given, and if how much is left over seems like an important number to know, it is. Claim denied. Next up, lost royalties in the second year of the agreement. This is where we meet the main character of this segment. Breakey hired economist Marion B. Stewart, who comes in and just really hammers home what we've been dealing with here. Breakey brought Stewart in to show that Upper Deck's failures in that second term caused Breakey to lose out on $9.4 million in royalties. So Upper Deck, per their agreement, should have to pay an additional $6.9 million on top of the $2.5 guaranteed. How did Stewart arrive at this number? Well, this was calculated using the sale of the 15,000 boxes from Studio 100. That agreement only lasted half the year, so therefore the figure was doubled to get 30,000 and multiplied that by $32, gotten from a combination of a sales report by a Spanish company called Deset from 2002, which Breakey never contacted, a discussion about Breakey's sales in the Netherlands, and 3 Upper Deck documents. Stewart concluded that Breakey lost at least $8 million in royalties in the material territories, and this was combined with a similar analysis in 13 other countries with, quote, per capita income levels and rates of interest use at least as high as those at the lower end of the list in the material territories, for sales of 1.4 million achieving the 9.4 million. Confused? Yeah, so was everybody else. Breakey was then asked to identify documents that showed that the sales by Studio 100 happened over a 6-month period. It instead submitted a declaration by Breakey's managing director, which stated that this happened because the boxes were delivered in December 2003, Studio 100 stopped selling the boxes in early June 2004, and Studio 100 did not return any unsold boxes to Breakey, which was allowed under the license agreement. And if they didn't return the boxes, this must mean that they sold them all, yeah? Checkmate. That is not admissible evidence! Stewart then pointed to other data that was evidence for Upper Deck making sales greater than $25 million, all of which were also dismissed. I can't believe they were either, not when he was using rock-solid data points like these.
Okay, seriously. What the fuck did Breakey hire to do their economics? Digital homicide?
Single comment by Upper Deck CEO over dinner where he said the product would generate $120 to $180 million in sales each year. An internal Upper Deck document titled Brand Strategy that notes a worldwide launch and lists among their brand objectives generating $50 million in revenue by December of 2004, and Stewart's own projected sales for 37 countries, although the court noted that the product had never been sold in 35 of them. Just a real rock star out there. Yeah, unsurprisingly, every single one of these was dismissed. Along with that, the court said that Stewart's calculations, quote, are based on too many unsupportable assumptions to establish the existence of lost royalties within the reasonable certainty required, and then his extrapolation was also scrutinized. Brother couldn't even get the chart right. So this claim also ended up being denied. But never fear, we've still got one left, and it blows all of this other noise out of the water, as this is Breakey's chance to really rake in the cash with lost royalties beyond the term of agreement. Breakey argued that it could have made more money in a future license agreement, but that it couldn't now because of Upper Deck's wrongful conduct screwing over the brand perception. Dude, I can't believe Upper Deck made us look like a complete waste of plastic and resources. What the balls? To figure out just how much Upper Deck shenanigans cost them in the long run, they brought their boy Stewart back in to ring in this home run, and he came up with the totally reasonable figure of $19.6 million. It is not explained how this figure was achieved.
Yep, they definitely hired digital
Run
homicide.
out of reasonable reactions? Seeing the writing on the wall here, Breakey also tried to argue based on logic that no company will license a product if that product's patentability is being challenged, if that product has been dumped on the market and then withdrawn, if a major former licensee of the product is defaming the product and the product's owners, and if they thereby might be dragged into litigation. Okay, Breakey, you're kind of spitting there. That was pretty good. Now, what data do you have to back that up? Well, none, but it sounded cool when I wrote it down. Can I please have $20 million? Breakey did not supply any material evidence supporting these claims, and the court stated that these arguments were, quote, not a substitute for a plaintiff's obligation to provide evidence of facts that support the applicability of the expert's opinion to the case. Basically begging, can you please provide a smidgen of actual admissible evidence? Surprisingly, Breakey went, oh yeah, we can. Hold on a second. There's no shot. There's not a single shot. Okay, so what we have here is a declaration from a potential licensee that echoes the sentiments that we put forward in our statement, directly confirming that this mindset can be applied to our current situation. Oh dang, this is actual admissible evidence. You can legitimately do something with this. Sweet, when did you guys get your hands on this? Oh, we had it the entire time. We withheld it during discovery.
What the fuck?
They might be dumber than we are. The fact that they had...
Jesus Christ. It's like they were trying to just lose the lawsuit or something. Seriously, how do you make Upper Deck look smart by comparison? Those motherfuckers literally thought it was a good idea to sell bootlegs of the franchise they were maintaining. Jesus fucking Christ.
Purposefully withheld this information during the discovery phase meant that this evidence was completely inadmissible, meaning that all they had to go off of was a statement that they couldn't back up and Stewart's $20 million figure that he refused to show the math for. Needless to say, this one was also denied, officially closing the case by granting partial summary judgment to Breakey while denying its countersuit claims. And that...
Oh, hey Alex. I'm currently drawing an adoptable while watching a KamSandwich video.
officially puts a close to the Breakey files. So to remind you of what we all just witnessed here, let's do a quick recap. Breakey, the company, patents their awesome idea of Breakey, the product.
Oh, thank you.
Disposable plastic keys that permanently break on a loss. These keys can, however, be recycled sometimes, be used to build things, or in an alternate timeline, be eaten because they're made of sugar. Breakey, the company, shows up to Upper Deck HQ and shows off Breakey, the product. Upper Deck loves it so much that they immediately jump on board. Upper Deck signs a 2-year contract with Breakey, the company, where they pay $2.5 million upfront to have the exclusive rights to sell Breakey nearly worldwide. Breakey, in return, needs to give them a source code for a website. Upper Deck cashes in every favor they've ever had to get Breakey, the product, tied in with shows, sports, and characters, commissions a traveling tournament all over Europe, holds a few of them in the US at various Toys R Us locations, makes 2 separate European television programs all about playing the game for prizes, and allegedly commissions the Backstreet Boys to write a song about the keys in exchange for bankrolling a nationwide tour. After doing all of this, Upper Deck is so upset that their provided website does not contain multinational tournament functionality that they sue Breakey to withhold the extra $2.5 million that they previously guaranteed, ruining the relationship and killing any chance of Breakey succeeding. Breakey, of course, wins the lawsuit because the money was guaranteed, but fumble around in the courtroom so much that their countersuits are denied and they don't get a cent more than their fully guaranteed money. The result of this is millions of dollars wasted, an entire product line built, hyped up, and killed off for no reason, and the complete and total degradation of my physical and mental well-being for having to experience all of this. And what happened to Upper Deck after all this? After they lost anywhere from $8 to $10 million farting around with this Breakey nonsense? They'd go out and buy their former competitor Fleer. It didn't do anything. It had practically no impact on them at all. It's like it never even happened. This nonsense doesn't even appear on the Upper Deck Wikipedia page. That has a whole section for lawsuits, and none of these 3 are there. I'm constantly having to double check and make sure I'm not on some strange Dutch prank show and that this is all real. The fact that all of this took place is absolutely wild. But the fact that all of this happened and then everyone involved just seemed to immediately forget about it is somehow even crazier. Upper Deck didn't even flinch. They just said, business is business, and then wrote.
I mean, to be fair, Upper Deck is an extremely morally bankrupt company. This shit was probably like an average Tuesday for them. Oh, yeah, this is KamSandwich. It's Scott the Woz clone, but for board games, and he's actually one of the good ones. Well, to be fair, there's like a billion other TCGs that are out there now, so don't exactly have a shortage. Yeah, I'm probably gonna check out his video on tabletop RPGs, since that one's actually a pretty good one. It's actually the one I started with.
Off into the shining, gleaming sunset. You know, up until they got sued by Konami for producing counterfeit Yu-Gi-Oh cards, lost their license to the property, and went bankrupt 4 years later, but business is business. This is...
Yeah, and those guys were actually the sane ones in the Breakey situation. Good lord. This entire frickin' product is a clusterfuck. Oh yeah, I heard about Lorcana. It's fine, but yeah, very flawed game from what I hear. I stayed away from it because one of their artists was added as using AI for their shit, and yeah, I ultimately just stayed away from the project out of principle. I mean, granted, from what I heard, the artist got fired for it, but still.
is, without a doubt, one of the wildest board game stories on the market. The unrelenting barrage of gut punch after gut punch of information is truly astonishing. And I want to give another massive thank you to the team who put this collection together for digging up this oil well of whack crap for us to experience. If you want to take a look at the files for yourself, I'll have them linked down in the description. They are still being updated with new information every time one of these guys stumbles across something. For example, while I was making the video, they figured out that the online game at one point had a peak of 27,000 players. Europe, if you give me a valid reason to hate on you, that makes it less fun. As for me, I am glad that I now have absolutely no reason to ever talk about this game again. I learned it, I bought it, I broke it, there is nothing else for me to do short of holding a tournament myself, and I don't have $6 million that I'm contractually obligated to spend. So this is the last you're gonna hear about this garbage for quite some time. As such, I've prepared this goodbye message for our glorious Bray King that we should all strive to remember. Breakey would have taken off, that I guarantee. Remember that in Benelux, they sold out of the key. If you think that's a stretch, that this trash is not a winner, remember what the kids did when they met the fidget spinner. So we got really lucky that this business just imploded, or else the landfills everywhere would have gotten overloaded. So the next time that you see a fad that you can't comprehend, remember your pal Breakey and just ignore the trend. Signing off for Bray King Bad, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching.
And I think that's a pretty good note to end on. If you don't understand a current trend, just remember your trends were absolute garbage and kids are fucking stupid. It's really the only it's really how I tend to view a lot of shit. Getting old sucks.
Watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.
So, yeah. That was KamSandwich's exploring the Breakey files. Actually, I'll go ahead and link his down because he has some pretty good stuff I would totally recommend.